Welcome to Mr. Horror, where nightmares become reality. Brace yourself for terrifying tales that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Hit the subscribe button and join us as we explore the darkest depths of horror. Have you ever experienced a glitch in the Matrix? Something that just didn't make sense and left you feeling unsettled? That's exactly what happened to a friend of mine, and I can't shake the feeling that it might happen to me too. It all started when my friend, let's call her Sarah, moved into a new apartment complex. At first, everything seemed normal. The building was clean, the neighbors were friendly, and the rent was reasonable. But as soon as Sarah started unpacking, things took a turn for the bizarre. The first glitch occurred when Sarah went to put away her clothes. She opened her closet door, but instead of seeing her clothes neatly folded on hangers, she saw a stack of old newspapers. Confused, she checked the other closet, but it was the same story. She asked the building manager about it, but he just shrugged it off, saying that the previous tenant must have left them there. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She started noticing other oddities around the building, like the fact that her neighbors never seemed to leave their apartments. Every time she passed by, their doors were closed and there was no sound coming from inside. One night, Sarah was awakened by a strange noise coming from the hallway. It sounded like someone was dragging a heavy object across the floor. She cautiously opened her door and saw that the hallway was empty. But as she looked down, she noticed that there were fresh scratch marks on the hardwood floor. The final straw came when Sarah went to take a shower. She turned on the water, but instead of hot water, she was blasted with freezing cold water. She quickly turned off the tap, but as she looked down, she saw that the water was still running. Confused and frightened, she called the building manager, but he just told her to wait for the plumber to arrive. That's when Sarah realized that she was trapped in some sort of nightmare. She didn't know what was happening, but she knew that it wasn't normal. And as she looked out her window, she saw something that confirmed her worst fears. Across the street, she saw her own apartment complex, but instead of the clean, modern building she knew, she saw a crumbling, abandoned ruin. The windows were boarded up, the walls were covered in graffiti, and the only sign of life was a lone figure standing in the doorway. It was her. Sarah saw herself staring back at her from the other side of the street. She blinked, and the image was gone. But the feeling of dread lingered, and she knew that she was in for a long, terrifying night. After that night, Sarah's life was never the same. She tried to convince herself that it was all just a nightmare, that she would wake up and everything would be back to normal. But as the days went on, she realized that the glitch in the Matrix was all too real. It started with small things. The clocks in her apartment would randomly change time, sometimes by hours at a time. Her phone would ring, but when she answered, there was no one on the other end. And every time she looked in the mirror, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone else was staring back at her. But it was the dreams that really shook her. Night after night, she dreamt of a dark, endless hallway. At the end of the hallway was a door, and every time she got close, it would slam shut. She would wake up sweating and shaking, convinced that something was trying to keep her out. One day, Sarah decided to do some investigating. She went to the local library and started researching the history of her apartment complex. What she found was shocking. The building had been built in the early 1900 seconds and had a long and troubled history. There had been a fire in the building in the 1950s, which had killed dozens of people. And in the 1980s, a notorious serial killer had used one of the apartments as his base of operations. Sarah realized that she was living in a place with a dark past, and that the glitch in the Matrix might be connected to it. She started digging deeper, talking to her neighbors, and even breaking into the old, abandoned building across the street. That's when she found it. In the basement of the abandoned building, she found a room that was covered in strange symbols and markings. In the center of the room was a black stone, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. Sarah knew that she had stumbled upon something dangerous. But before she could leave, she was attacked by a figure in the shadows. It was like nothing she had ever seen before, with skin as black as coal and eyes that glowed like embers. She managed to escape, but not before the creature had whispered something in her ear. Something that chilled her to the bone. "You are not supposed to be here," it had said. "You have to go back." Sarah knew that she was in over her head, but she couldn't just leave, not when she was so close to the truth. She knew that she had to keep digging, no matter what the cost. As Sarah delved deeper into the mystery of the glitch in the Matrix, things started to escalate. The dreams became more vivid, the strange occurrences more frequent. But Sarah refused to back down. She was determined to uncover the truth, no matter what it took. She reached out to a group of paranormal investigators, hoping that they could help her make sense of what was happening. They came to her apartment, armed with cameras and EMF detectors, ready to document whatever strange phenomena they found. They didn't find anything at first, but as they dug deeper, they uncovered something truly terrifying. In the walls of the apartment, they found a hidden room. It was small and cramped, barely big enough for a person to stand in. But what they found inside was like nothing they had ever seen before. The room was filled with strange devices, glowing with an eerie blue light. In the center of the room was a massive, pulsing machine, with wires and tubes snaking out in all directions. As they watched, the machine started to hum to life. The blue light grew brighter and the air crackled with electricity. And then, with a deafening roar, the machine exploded. When Sarah came to, she was lying in a hospital bed. The doctors told her that she had been found unconscious in her apartment, with no memory of what had happened. But Sarah knew the truth. She had been caught in a glitch in the Matrix, a glitch that had been created by the machine in that hidden room. The machine was a portal, a way to travel between different dimensions and realities. And when it exploded, it sent Sarah hurtling through time and space. For months, Sarah drifted through a maelstrom of sights and sounds, flashes of reality and surreal hallucinations. She saw things that no human was meant to see, things that would drive a lesser person mad. But eventually, she landed back in her own reality. It was different, somehow. The colors were brighter, the air cleaner. And Sarah knew that she had been changed by her experiences. She had seen the true nature of reality, and it had left an indelible mark on her soul. As for the apartment complex, it was torn down soon after the incident. The city claimed that it was unsafe, but Sarah knew the truth. The glitch in the Matrix had been too powerful, too dangerous. And now there was no way to tell what horrors it might unleash. Sarah moved away, far from the place that had nearly destroyed her. But she knew that she would never truly escape. The glitch in the Matrix was always there, waiting to strike again. And Sarah knew that she would be ready for it, no matter what the cost. It all started on a regular day at work. I was sitting at my desk, going through my emails, when I received a strange message. The subject line read, "You need to remember." The message itself was cryptic, with no signature or explanation. It simply said, "Don't forget what happened." I dismissed it as spam and went back to work. But as the day went on, things started to get weird. I would catch glimpses of someone out of the corner of my eye, but when I turned to look, there was no one there. My computer would glitch, the screen flashing with static and strange symbols. And then it happened. I was walking down the hallway, lost in thought, when I suddenly found myself in a completely different building. It was like I had stepped through a portal. The air was thick and humid, and the walls were covered in peeling wallpaper. I tried to retrace my steps, but it was like the hallway had vanished. I was completely disoriented, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. That's when I saw her. A woman, standing at the end of the hallway. She was dressed in an old-fashioned gown, her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She looked at me with haunted eyes, and then she was gone. I stumbled back, my heart pounding in my chest. And then, just as suddenly as I had arrived, I was back in my own building. It was like nothing had ever happened, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed, that I had crossed some sort of barrier, and that I wasn't quite the same person I had been before. And as the days went on, the strange occurrences continued. I would hear voices in my head, whispers that I couldn't quite make out. I would see things out of the corner of my eye, things that weren't there. And every time I tried to talk to someone about it, they would just look at me like I was crazy. I knew that something was wrong, but I didn't know what to do. And as the glitches in the Matrix continued, I realized that I might never find out. I became obsessed with finding an explanation. I spent hours researching online, trying to find anything that might help me make sense of what was happening. One day, I stumbled upon a forum dedicated to glitch in the Matrix stories. It was filled with people who had experienced similar phenomena, from lost time to bizarre coincidences. It was like I had finally found a community of people who understood what I was going through. I started posting on the forum, sharing my own experiences and reading about others. And then, one day, I received a private message from someone who claimed to have all the answers. The message was from a man who called himself the Oracle. He claimed to be a master of the Matrix with the ability to manipulate reality itself. He said that he had been watching me for some time and that he could help me understand what was happening. I was skeptical at first, but the more we talked, the more convinced I became. The Oracle seemed to know things that he couldn't possibly know, and he had a way of making me feel like he was the only one who could help me. He told me that the glitches in the Matrix were caused by a fracture in reality itself. He said that there were parallel dimensions and that sometimes they would bleed into each other, causing strange phenomena. But he also warned me that there were forces at work that didn't want me to know the truth. Forces that would stop at nothing to keep me in the dark. I didn't know what to believe. But I was desperate for answers, and the Oracle seemed like my only hope. So I agreed to meet him in person. We arranged to meet in a small, out-of-the-way coffee shop. The Oracle was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth. He looked exactly like his profile picture, with piercing blue eyes and a cryptic smile. We talked for hours, and he told me things that made my head spin. He spoke about parallel universes and alternate timelines, about beings from other dimensions who could shape reality with their minds. But as the night wore on, I started to feel uneasy. There was something off about the Oracle, something that I couldn't quite put my finger on. And then, just as suddenly as he had appeared in my life, he was gone. I never heard from him again. And as I tried to make sense of what had happened, I realized that I might have made a terrible mistake. The glitch in the Matrix had consumed me, and I had been willing to believe anything to make it stop. But now I was more lost than ever. The glitches continued, and I was left with nothing but my own paranoia and confusion. I didn't know what was real anymore, or if there was any way to escape the Matrix's grasp. As time went on, the glitches in the Matrix became more and more frequent. I started to feel like I was living in a dream, like nothing was quite real anymore. And as much as I tried to fight it, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was trapped. But then something strange happened. I received another message, this time from someone who claimed to have information about the Oracle. They said that he was part of a group of people who were using the glitches in the Matrix for their own purposes, that they were manipulating reality itself to serve their own ends. At first, I was skeptical. But as I dug deeper, I found more and more evidence to support their claims. And then I received an invitation to join them. I was hesitant at first, but I didn't know what else to do. I felt like I had no control over my life anymore, like the glitches in the Matrix were dictating my every move. So I agreed to meet with the group. They were a strange bunch, a mix of conspiracy theorists and tech enthusiasts. But they were also smart, and they seemed to know what they were talking about. They explained to me that the Matrix wasn't some glitch in the system, but a deliberate construct created by people who wanted to control reality. They said that they were fighting against those people, that they were trying to use the glitches in the Matrix to dismantle the system from the inside out. And they offered me a chance to be a part of it. It wasn't an easy decision, but in the end, I knew that I had nothing to lose. So I joined their cause, and we started to work together to uncover the truth. It was dangerous work, and there were times when I felt like we were in over our heads. But we persevered, and we started to make progress. We found hidden rooms and secret files, evidence of a vast conspiracy to control reality itself. And then, one day, we found the machine. It was like something out of a science fiction movie, a massive device with wires and tubes snaking out in all directions. It pulsed with an otherworldly energy, and I knew that it was the key to everything. We worked tirelessly, hacking into the system and rewiring the machine, and then, finally, we activated it. The machine roared to life, and the glitches in the Matrix started to dissipate. At first, I thought that we had won. But then, something strange happened. I saw a figure out of the corner of my eye, and when I turned to look, there was no one there. The computer glitched, the screen flashing with static and strange symbols. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the glitch in the Matrix was back. But this time, I was ready for it. I knew that there would always be forces trying to control reality, but I also knew that there were people fighting against them. And as I looked out at the world, with all its flaws and imperfections, I realized that maybe, just maybe, that was enough. I was driving home from work one night on a dark and deserted road. It was late and I was tired, but then something strange happened. As I was driving, the road seemed to stretch out in front of me, getting longer and longer. It was like I was caught in some sort of optical illusion, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the road snapped back to its normal length. It was like nothing had ever happened. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It was like a switch had been flipped in my brain, and I was seeing the world in a different way. Over the next few days, strange things started to happen. I would see things out of the corner of my eye, things that weren't there. I would hear whispers in my ear, whispers that I couldn't quite make out, and then one day I saw her. A woman dressed in old-fashioned clothes, standing at the side of the road. She looked at me with haunted eyes, and then she was gone. I knew that something was wrong, but I didn't know what to do. And as the glitches in the Matrix continued, I realized that I might never find out the truth. As the glitches in the Matrix continued to haunt me, I became obsessed with finding an explanation. I started to research online, trying to find others who had experienced similar phenomena. It wasn't long before I stumbled upon a forum dedicated to glitch in the Matrix stories. It was filled with people who had experienced strange occurrences, from lost time to bizarre coincidences. It was like I had finally found a community of people who understood what I was going through. I started reading through the forum, searching for any clues that might help me make sense of what was happening. And then, one day, I received a private message from someone who claimed to know the truth. The message was from a woman who called herself the Seeker. She claimed to be a master of the Matrix with the ability to manipulate reality itself. She said that she had been watching me for some time and that she could help me understand what was happening. At first, I was skeptical, but as we talked more, I started to believe that she might be telling the truth. She had a way of making me feel like she was the only one who could help me, like she understood the glitches in the Matrix better than anyone else. She told me that the glitches were caused by a fracture in reality itself. She said that there were parallel dimensions and that sometimes they would bleed into each other, causing strange phenomena. But then she told me something that made my blood run cold. She said that there were forces at work that didn't want me to know the truth. Forces that would stop at nothing to keep me in the dark. I didn't know what to believe. But I was desperate for answers, and the Seeker seemed like my only hope. So I agreed to meet her in person. We arranged to meet in a park in the middle of the night. The Seeker was already there when I arrived, sitting on a park bench. She looked exactly like her profile picture, with piercing green eyes and a mysterious smile. We talked for hours, and she told me things that made my head spin. She spoke about parallel universes and alternate timelines, about beings from other dimensions who could shape reality with their minds. But as the night wore on, I started to feel uneasy. There was something off about the Seeker, something that I couldn't quite put my finger on. And then, just as suddenly as she had appeared in my life, she was gone. I never heard from her again. And as I tried to make sense of what had happened, I realized that I might have made a terrible mistake. The glitch in the Matrix had consumed me, and I had been willing to believe anything to make it stop. But now I was more lost than ever. The glitches continued, and I was left with nothing but my own paranoia and confusion. I didn't know what was real anymore, or if there was any way to escape the Matrix's grasp. As the glitches in the Matrix continued to consume my life, I became increasingly desperate for answers. I spent all my time researching online, trying to find anything that might help me make sense of what was happening. And then, one day, I received an email from someone who claimed to be a scientist studying the nature of reality. The email was filled with complex scientific jargon, but it seemed to suggest that there might be a way to control the glitches in the Matrix. I was skeptical, but I was also desperate. So I agreed to meet with the scientist, hoping that he could help me escape the Matrix's grasp. The meeting was in a laboratory filled with strange machines and test tubes. The scientist was there, a thin man with wild hair and piercing blue eyes. He explained to me that the Matrix was like a computer program, and that by altering certain parameters, we might be able to control it. He said that he had been studying the Matrix for years, and that he believed that he had found a way to manipulate it. It sounded too good to be true, but I was willing to try anything. The scientist started to work on his machines, and I watched anxiously as he tinkered with wires and circuits. And then, suddenly, there was a flash of light. It was like I was transported to another world, a world where everything was perfect and beautiful. But it didn't last. The glitches in the Matrix returned, and they were stronger than ever. The world twisted and contorted like I was trapped in a nightmare. I turned to the scientist, but he was gone, and then I realized what had happened. He had been consumed by his own hubris, and he had made a terrible mistake. But it was too late for regrets. The glitches in the Matrix were stronger than ever, and I was trapped in their grasp. I don't know how long I was trapped in the Matrix. It could have been days, or weeks, or even years. But eventually, something happened. The glitches started to fade, and the world returned to normal. I don't know what caused the glitches or why they stopped, but I do know one thing. The Matrix is a powerful force, one that we can never fully understand. And it's up to us to decide whether we want to try to control it or let it control us. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the world of Glitch in the Matrix horror stories. I hope that these tales have kept you on the edge of your seat and that you've enjoyed the twists and turns along the way. If you've enjoyed these stories, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell to be notified when we upload more spine-chilling content. Remember, the world is full of mysteries, and the glitch in the Matrix is just one of them. Keep your eyes open and always be on the lookout for the strange and unusual. Who knows what secrets the universe might hold? Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.